Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of... Ooh, that's not good. Alright, that should fix it. Welcome to another installment of Echo Wirm Live. This is a live stream that we try to do every couple of weeks here. Typically around like the 4 o'clock Eastern hour like we're doing today on a Thursday. We have done it in the past on different times, and of course with everything going on in my life that we've talked about in previous live streams with the new studio and the move and everything going on, we've been doing some live streams kind of periodically. I still have yet to figure out the lighting. I'm not a big fan of the lighting in here. But I did get the fish tank up. So, slowly but surely, we're making moves. And I also wanted to show you, this is one of 4 bookshelves that are full in my office right now. I know a lot of you guys have been asking, and maybe I'll show you the entire section of it at some point. But, anyways, like I said, this is something we try to do every other week. Basically, how this goes is for an hour or two, we just talk about some questions that you guys have left on the channel. If you guys have questions that you want answered in the chat, you are always more than welcome to drop them in the chat. I'll answer anything that I'm comfortable answering. Spoilers are, for the most part, welcome if they're all available to the public on YouTube or Patreon. So, for example, anything through about chapter 60 of Magnus Chase, the first book, but nothing about book 2 of Magnus Chase. No spoilers there, simply because it's not out for everybody to see. While we're here talking about Patreon, though, I did want to give a mention to my upper Patreon members here. You can go and join the Patreon at patreon.com/EchoWirm. All of our stuff is available there for free, and then we have some extra stuff available about a month in advance for non-paying members to the paying members over on Patreon if you want to join for $5 a month or more. But I also have some upper tier members. $10 a month or more gets you on this little end screen here. Those people that have joined the upper tiers are Gage Sanders, Brandon Doty, Sailor Ann Cross, Hessa, Rockin' Ryan 99, X-Ray, Rania, Katie Rose, Nickerdoodles, Jared Parnell, Suzanne William James, Mr. Taper, Dakota Wild, Dixie Normus, Anonymous Astro, and Cam. My League 1 members, those are $15 a month or more. Want to give a special shout out to them. Sneevatics, Trent Skeen, Gage Flores, Robin Chamberlain, and Michael Wang. And then my champion tier members. Now this is a special tier. Not only do they pay the most money, but they also get a free book every single month for no extra cost. The $25 a month or more is basically like joining Patreon at $5 a month and paying for a book every month. So I send you at no extra cost to that $25 or more a free book, a free copy of anything we are reading on the channel. So I believe this month it was Scorch Trials, but those people are John Buck, Donald Easter, Dalton Bailey, Lydia Bryant, Zhukov Crawford, Joseph Morrill, and Log. So if you do want to join the book club, feel free to join for $25 a month or more over on Patreon if that's something you guys are interested in joining. Like I said, if you guys have any questions you want to drop in the chat, you are always more than welcome to do so. I'm curious to see if this is our normal time, but our live streams have changed in the past and have been more successful at other times. So I'm curious going forward if the chat will be less than active as we see here. But while we're started, if you guys want to let me know where in the world you guys are listening in from, that's something I'm always curious about. I'm a huge geography nerd, so whatever you guys are comfortable sharing, whether it be your country or your state or province or wherever you guys are listening in the world, I always love to know where the demographics of the channel are, just because it's kind of fun to see how these stories and how my work with these stories has impacted people around the world. Like I said, we typically run these for about 2 hours or so. So let's start with a pre-prepared question that I want to mention from Uncle Tatum, who asked, what is the worst book you've ever read? Good question. The worst book I have ever read. I really don't like The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I'm going to read it on the channel. I've started with the first chapter. I'm just curious if I was just in a bad place when I read it the first time. And I'm looking forward to reading it as an adult and not having to read it for school. I'm very curious about that. But yeah, I don't know. Next question comes to us from Sasha Newitt, who says, will you be doing the rest of the Lux series anytime? Yes. So the first book in the Lux series is called Obsidian. It's available over on Patreon. I believe it's available for non-paying members as well. It should be. If not, let me know. Book 2 is called Onyx. I have started recording it. I am not finished recording it. So as soon as that is done, then yes, I'll probably post it there to Patreon like we do every normal thing. Are you looking forward to the Packers-Commanders game tonight? I didn't think we'd win last week, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think we're going to win this week, so hopefully I'm also pleasantly surprised at that. Who is your jersey for? So it's a funny story. This is Kabir Gabaja Biamila. He was a defensive end when I was really little for the Packers. I think he made 2 or 3 Pro Bowls, but I really just like his name. It's probably the longest name you can put on a Packers uniform that has played for the Packers, and I kind of got it as a joke from my dad last year. He was asking if I wanted a real jersey, and I said, yeah, please get me a KGB jersey. Nico is asking, I don't get it. Didn't Percy send an iris message to Mr. D in Sea of Monsters? I believe this comes from... I think this comes from either Son of Neptune or Mark of Athena. Or actually, I can't remember which book this comes from, but it has to do with Percy thinking about whether or not he can send iris messages directly to gods, and he doesn't think he can. And so the question about didn't he already send one in Sea of Monsters, the answer is no, because when he tried to send the message in Sea of Monsters, what ended up happening was he sent it either to Chiron or to the camp itself, and there was no one there to answer it. And so Mr. D just was there and answered it. So it wasn't directly to a god, but it was picked up by a god. So the implication is, if you can send an iris message within the vicinity of a god, that will change things, if that makes any sense. Diz says, don't know if anyone else has been getting ads on YouTube when listening to the chapters. You shouldn't get ads in the middle of chapters because the channel isn't monetized, but YouTube automatically puts ads at the beginning of any video more than 100 views. So that is fairly common. I don't make any money off of it, which sucks, but so be it. Philip Adams is asking, why do people bookmark on YouTube when you can go to watch later and just pick up where you left off? Usually because people fall asleep when they're reading. And so, like, I used to do this too before I started my own audiobook channel. If I was listening to an audiobook or a video on YouTube and I wanted to remember kind of where I had fallen asleep to, just so I could remember what happens, I would put kind of the last conscious memory I have, and then as I fall asleep, then I can find that bookmark, go back, and work my way forward to where I actually remember it ending, if that makes any sense. Dylan Wilkinson asks, do you have any thoughts on the current... I don't know why I'm looking down here. I have a second screen up there. Let's try this. Do you have any thoughts on the current state of A Song of Ice and Fire, and with the last 2 books have taken a while to be written and released? My thoughts on it, I'm going to wear the dunce cap of Felford again. I think with A Song of Ice and Fire, there is a very, very good chance that even... he's getting older, and the speculation is that he won't finish the series before he dies. I think even if George R.R. Martin dies, we will get some very, very complete form of Winds of Winter. I don't know about A Dream of Spring, which is unfortunate, but I think The Winds of Winter is closer to being done than we think it is, and for a variety of reasons, it just hasn't been released. Those reasons could be the fact that there are certain storylines that aren't completed, and that is what's keeping hold of the story. He's been completed with the Tyrion arc for over 5 years. I know we keep speculating that the next convention that he appears at, he'll announce Winds of Winter, or the next one he'll appear at. And I think right now it's more of a publication thing where they're trying to decide if they need to split the book because certain storylines are taking longer to finish, and the book itself is way longer to finish, where they're going to cut it in half. Because that's what happened with what ended up being Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, is they split one book into 2, and it ended up, by the time Dance with Dragons came out, it was an 11-year period from where those characters had been, in terms of our world. In terms of just what's going on with the greater A Song of Ice and Fire community and fandom, I would really like to see Blood and Fire, which is the working title of the follow-up to Fire and Blood. I really like Fire and Blood. I'm not super into the Dunk and Egg novellas. I would like to see more, maybe, just simply for more material for them to use in the upcoming TV show. But I think we just need to be patient, and you know, I have learned as a content creator, very different from the long form authorship that George R.R. Martin is doing. You go at your own pace. Art is becoming content, but content isn't always art, if that makes any sense. And I think for an artist like George R.R. Martin, it is difficult to compete with the timelines and the ever-progressing expectations that people have for his timeline. Aradia Corte says, how do bee stings hurt Percy? Isn't he invulnerable like Achilles? Yeah, this is in one of the new Percy Jackson books where Percy is threatened by bee stings. Percy no longer has the curse of Achilles. So if you'll recall in the second book, I think it is, what am I talking about? In the end of Last Olympian, which is the 5th book of the original Percy Jackson series, he bathes in the river Styx, and basically chooses a small point in his back to be his only weak spot. It's the curse of Achilles. He's invulnerable unless he gets stabbed there, and then he basically dies. Percy doesn't have that anymore because in Son of Neptune, which is one of the Heroes of Olympus books, he has to wade through the river Tiber, or the Little Tiber, which surrounds Camp Jupiter. And in order for him to cross to the other side, he has to basically give up all of his previous enchantments. So anything that is protecting him prior is washed away when he enters Camp Jupiter. And so that's what happens. That's why he no longer has the curse of Achilles. That's why he is vulnerable. That's why he's able to die. And that's why he's afraid of bee stings. Jamboree asks, if you sub to the $5 plan on Patreon, do you get access to all of the books? Yes, everything that I have ever released or am working on releasing should be available at that $5 tier. So I mentioned basically everything is available in full on Patreon and Vimeo for free. But then over on Patreon for my paying members, you get about a month's extra buffer zone of content. So right now we're working through the Scorch Trials as well as the second book in the Magnus Chase series. It's about a month or a month and a half in advance of what everybody else is getting, if that makes any sense. Let's go to a question from Skybeats, who says, how long do you reckon until the Scorch Trials? I just kind of answered that question. So it's already airing for paying members over on Patreon. It should be up available for free on the channel Echo Wirm Maze Runner, starting in, I want to say early October is when it'll be out for everybody else. Dylan Wilkinson says, well, at least Percy isn't taken out by a brick. Yes. That's funny. Let's go to a question from Nomi Vela, who says, can you do the Twilight Saga? The answer is yes. My wife has been asking me to do a Twilight audiobook for a very long time, and I have finally started Twilight. So for those of you that have been asking me for like 2.5 years, I have finally started recording Twilight. I have no idea when it's going to be finished. It'll probably be up on the channel as a daily chapter book starting in January. But as of now, I have started recording it. It'll take a while to finish. Kylito's Corner says, how long did it take you to figure out that Quintus was Daedalus in Battle of the Labyrinth on your first read? I want to say it was not long before they entered the Labyrinth before the bulk of the book. For me, I read it when I was like 11, and back then, I don't think I really read books with a problem-solving mind, and so I don't think I ever figured it out, necessarily. I think it was just revealed to me, and then it was like, oh, wow, and then years later, it's like, well, yeah, obviously, but yeah, I think because I was fairly literarily immature when I read it, I never figured it out before the reveal. Flickstreet Productions is in the chat saying, hey there. Good to see my regular crowd here. Gene N. Wiseman says, can you do Rowley's Journal? At the moment, I'm kind of on a pause. Whoops, I accidentally clicked Siri. I hope that doesn't affect you guys. Sorry for that. having a weird start to the live stream. We started super late, and a bunch of stuff isn't working the way I want it to, but that's okay. Back to the question. This has nothing to do with Jeff Kinney. I'm kind of upset personally with Diary of a Wimpy Kid right now, because Diary of a Wimpy Kid was the book series that got our old channel taken down. And so at the moment, I'm not eager to continue the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series because of what happened. I'll get over it. I'm a grown adult. I will get over it eventually. And yes, I will do all the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. If we still have followers who want me to listen or to read basically the entirety of the series as well as the Rowley books, then yeah, I'll probably end up doing those too. Let's see here. Lettuce Cat says, just got here. Last stream you asked where everyone's from. Greetings from Lithuania. Wow. Nice to have a person from Lithuania in the chat. Nice to see you. Are you going to start uploading new Nico and Will books soon after its release? Very excited for Twilight. Yes, a bunch of people were asking about that in my pre-prepared questions too. The answer is yes. My plan... I won't do what I did last... So what I did last year with Wrath of the Triple Goddess is the book came out at 10 a.m. I had it finished that evening. It was one of the worst recording experiences of my life. My voice was shot by the end of it. I never want to do it again. I kind of just did it to see if I could do it. And I did, and it sucked. But what I'm going to do with the Nico books now, or just any book that comes out that we've already done all the other ones in the series, is for everybody not paying on Patreon, I'm going to do one chapter a day. So the day that it comes out, I will do one chapter, and then the next day I'll do another chapter, and then the next day I'll do another chapter, and it's probably going to be 50, 60 days, so about 2 months, and then we'll finish the book. And I'll do 2 chapters a day over on Patreon. So Patreon will be in advance of everybody else. So we'll do 2 chapters a day on Patreon, 1 chapter a day for everybody else. If you guys haven't subscribed already, there's another channel called Echo Worm Rick Riordan, and that is where all of our Rick Riordan content is going. We are all the way through Mark of Athena now. There's a daily chapter upload limit, but we are through Mark of Athena. Eventually, we will be through everything. Kylito's Corner asks, do you have any reaction to Ford joining F1 next season with Red Bull? Personally, I think it's awesome that American brands are entering F1. Cadillac is also joining in some degree. I would flip those thoughts. Cadillac isn't just joining in some degree. Cadillac is joining as a full team, whereas I think Ford is the team that's not entering in full because they're just an engine manufacturer. But yeah, I like to see it. So if we have Ford, Cadillac, and then we'll also have... Haas is already an American team. We have basically 2.5 American teams. I would like to see more drivers, but American success in F1 has not been great so far. But as an American, I really like to see more involvement. I actually do like the fact that we have 3 Grand Prix. Lettuce Cat says, so happy I became a Patreon member. It's great there. Well, thank you very much for joining. I really, really do appreciate it. I gave shoutouts to my $10 a month or more, but there are so many people in the $5 tier that I'm so grateful for. So many names that I can't fit them on a title card, and that's why I have the title card with the upper tiers. Let's go to a question from Gabe, who asks, can you do Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians? I have added it to my list. You're not the first person to ask me about that. I've never read it. I have no idea what it's about, but I have added it to my list. Dangster Paws asks, what is your Patreon? My Patreon is patreon.com/echoworm. That's worm spelt with an I. Gabriel Abshalom asks, are you going to read City of the Plague God? Good question. So, for those of you that don't know, City of the Plague God is the first of I can't remember what this series is called. But basically, what has happened is Rick Riordan has pulled an Oprah. And Rick Riordan is only able to write 1 or 2 books a year, which is fairly normal for an author. That's actually quite a lot of time spent writing books. But to A, make more money, and B, help support smaller, less public authors, he is putting his name on books that are similar to his own. So, for example, there is a mythology series about Incan mythology, there is one about Mesopotamian mythology, there is one about Korean mythology, one about Persian mythology, and all of these books you could argue may take place in the same universe as all of Rick Riordan's other books, but the difference is they are not written themselves by Rick Riordan. He basically just slaps his name on it so it sells better, and A, benefits himself, B, benefits these smaller authors whose books are becoming more popular because of it. I have committed to doing all of Rick Riordan's books. I have not committed to doing all of the Rick Riordan Presents books, because within the last 5 years of that being a thing, there are already more books in the Rick Riordan Presents series than there are Rick Riordan's own books. And for that reason, I haven't committed to anything beyond just his own. I don't know if I'll read City of the Plague God. I think you guys are probably going to bully me into doing it eventually, but that's my answer for now. Question here from Dylan Wilkinson, who says, with the Eric Schwabington story, what gave you the idea for the story? Enjoy the 2 chapters that are out already. Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit. Eric Schwabington is one of multiple series that I'm writing. I have my own content that I am writing and recording as an audiobook on the channel. I basically write a chapter, upload it as an audiobook. Eventually, I'll go back and revise it, make a full version with actual professional editing in it, and then publish it so you guys can have physical copies. One of my books is already finished. It's called The Radiation Effect. You can listen to all 35 chapters on the channel. Radiation Effect Book 2 is starting very, very soon on the channel. And I also have a book that is for a very different audience, which is probably my more normal audience centered towards Percy Jackson, called Eric Schwabington. Eric Schwabington is... It's really funny saying this now because I started Eric Schwabington when I was probably 6. And the whole point of it was I wanted to create this was long before the Avengers was a thing. I wanted to create a combined universe with all of my favorite shows, books, and movies. And so I created this universe where it is basically the world of Harry Potter mixed with the world of Star Wars, mixed with the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, mixed with the world of Percy Jackson, mixed with all of this stuff. And of course, in its original form, when I was 6 years old, that is severe copyright infringement. And so over the years, it's kind of been this idea that I had that sat and didn't do anything, and have had some ideas and have not had some ideas. And when I started writing The Radiation Effect, one thing that really struck me as I was writing it is it's a super heavy subject material. And there were points where I didn't really want to continue writing chapters because I didn't like the headspace that it put me in to explore the issues that I wanted to explore with the story. And so I decided I wanted to write another book alongside of it that is more upbeat, more for a youthful audience, for more teen, young adult friendly, I guess, would be the better description of the fan base I'm going for and the attitude of the series. And so I revisited Eric Schwabington, and you'll still see elements. It's very much based on Harry Potter with elements of Star Wars and Avatar: The Last Airbender and Percy Jackson. But I am doing my best to craft it into its own story. Very specifically different than the stuff that I have stolen it from or have been inspired by. So that's where it came from. Kylito's Corner says, Colton Herta from IndyCar is actually leaving his career to join the Cadillac F1 reserve team with hopes of becoming a future full-time driver. I did see that. Good for him. Tiny But Mighty says, thank you so much for putting the, I think that says series, back on YouTube. Flickstreet Production says, what is your opinion thus far on the Magnus Chase trilogy? I'm Norwegian. I ethnically Norwegian and have pretty strong ties to Norway. And so having Percy Jackson in that mythology is really interesting and really fun for me. And one thing that I'm doing with the recording that maybe you guys have picked up on is I'm using my family accent very, very heavily. So all of the gods have pretty thick Norwegian accents, a couple of Germanic accents in there too, but I'm having a lot of fun with it because it's a language that I'm familiar with, it's a culture that I'm very familiar with, and yeah, it's interesting to see how he has basically taken what most people know about Norse mythology through the Thor movies and adapted it to better fit his own universe, but also better fit the original mythology rather than the comic book version, if that makes any sense. So I'm enjoying it. John316 says, are you ever going to read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes or The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes? Probably The Inheritance Games. I've never read either of them, but Inheritance Games has been requested quite a bit. This is different, of course, from The Inheritance Cycle, which is the Aragon books. It's another series that I've never read and I'm unfamiliar with, but has been requested quite a bit. So, yes, at the moment it is on my list. Super Sentai Fan 26 says, what is happening, Echo? What is happening? It's been a heavy week. It's been a really, really heavy week for, I think, a lot of people. So, yeah, not to take the mood down, but I think I came into today's live stream really just needing an escape from the world. And I want to stress, like, I want that to be what this channel is for you guys, too. Whatever's going on in your worlds, I want you guys to be able to come to this channel and, come to these live streams and have the ability to talk and love books and express them without having to worry about everything going on out there. Because there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in the world. So, other than that, I'm doing all right. Kylito's Corner says, do you think Grand Moff Tarkin's name from Star Wars was inspired by the Tarkin that was used in TOA? Not sure if Tarkin was a real person or not. I don't know that. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I wouldn't say there's a 0% chance because George Lucas got a lot of his inspiration from mythologies and other properties. Like, the original Star Wars is basically a ripoff of Seven Samurai in a lot of ways. And so I could see that being the case. I don't know it at all. Expogo Sam says, how goes Chapter 2? Chapter 2 of The Radiation Effect is actually, believe it or not, going better than Chapter 3 of Eric Schwabington. Eric Schwabington Chapter 3 was supposed to be out today for Patreon members, given the timeline that I gave for myself. I'm hoping to have it out very soon. But Chapter 2 of The Radiation Effect is actually going really well. There's some interesting interactions in it. And I think my goal with Book 2 is to subvert as many expectations early as I can to set up the end of the book, which is really fun in a lot of ways, but really heavy in a lot of ways too. John316 asks, what are your thoughts on the death of Charlie Kirk? I low-key cried, rip you legend. I don't want to go into politics here. I just want to say this very, very briefly, just because I know Charlie Kirk as a person and as what he did was divisive to a lot of people. I was significantly affected by it, and like I just said, I don't want this place to ever feel like you guys can't talk about things or can't bring things here. I also don't want it to be a distraction to you guys. So whatever you guys are dealing with, whatever's going on in your worlds, whatever you're feeling based on what's going on in the world, this is a place to talk to people. You're always more than welcome to reach out on Discord, that sort of thing. But I just get scared of the state of the world sometimes. I think there's a lot of really, really hurt people in the world that are hurting people in the world. So, yeah, that's all I'll say on that. Flick Street Productions says, have you heard of the TV show Castle with Nathan Fillion and Stena Katic? And did you know that the titular character's books were actually published in real life using the character's name? I did not know that. I am briefly familiar with the show. I have seen commercials for it. But beyond that, I don't know anything about it or that world. Expogo Sam says, all the book that you read here just reminds me we live in... yeah. Yeah, the world's a messed up place, man. Like I said, if you guys ever need to reach out, feel free to. It's been a heavy week. Let's go to a question from Angel, who says, why are your audiobooks shorter than the ones on Audible? Very easy answer. I'm the one reading them. I have a much faster cadence than most audiobook readers, and that is simply because I talk very, very fast. Some people have asked me to slow down, and it's unnatural to me, and it sounds worse in my opinion. So, yeah, the answer is those are professional audiobooks reading it at a much slower pace than I do, and I record my own audiobooks and read it on my own. John316 says, what is your favorite genre? I love mystery novels, but I almost would rather have mystery novels wrapped up in a larger genre, if that makes any sense. So, for example, A Song of Ice and Fire is specifically the first book, A Game of Thrones, is a mystery novel wrapped in the skin of a fantasy book. Harry Potter is the same way. All 7 of the I almost said 8. Ugh. All 7 Harry Potter books are mystery novels wrapped up in the skin of a fantasy world. And so for me, mystery for sure, but in terms of a greater, I like thrillers a lot. I do like political action thrillers, but like, I'm going to use Pogo Sam's comment. Political thrillers can get a little too real sometimes. Or maybe reality just reflects political thrillers too much. And so there are times where it's just too heavy for me to read things like that. But I do enjoy them a lot. Lettuce Cat says, you absolutely help. Your streams feel like a debrief with a friend, and the work that you do clearly helps a lot of people escape whatever is going on personally and worldwide. That's the goal. I always want this to be a safe place for you guys to just relax and be able to talk about the properties that you really enjoy. Let's see here. Flick Street Productions says, I nearly laughed when I read the chapter description for the Sword of Summer chapter with Freya in it that says the narrator is so tired of singing in the book it's not. What? So I've said this before. My day job, I'm a professional musician. I used to record music pretty significantly. I am a trained audio technician. I know a lot about music. I am constantly surrounded by music. And I think I'm at the point now where, because it's my day job and because I do so much, my voice is already tired enough. My brain is already tired enough. And when I have to look through a book and they sing a song and I have to basically come up with a tune in my head and sight read these words, I'm so tired of it. After the last 2 Hunger Games books where I had to do the same thing. Lord of the Rings has a lot of singing in it too. Aragon, the first book, has a bunch of singing. I'm just like, can I stop singing for a living, please? That would be great. Let's see here. John316 says, I love mystery. It's my favorite genre. I really do like mystery. Dylan Wilkinson says, And Then There Were None is one of my favorite mystery whodunit books. I actually have it. So, not this shelf right here, but the next shelf over on the very top. I have not every Agatha Christie novel, but I have at least 10 of them, and one of them that I have is And Then There Were Fewer, is what I always say, because that's the Family Guy parody. Super Sentai Fan 26 says, would you ever do a Stephen King book? It's been requested before. There are certain ones I won't do for obvious reasons. I would probably do The Stand or probably The Shining. At the moment, there's so much going on my, I have a couple different piles back here, and then I'm basically working on 20 books at once right now. And I just don't have room to add a Stephen King novel to it. Super Sentai Fan says, I'd personally think doing a book like Death on the Nile or Murder on the Orient Express would be great. I will definitely consider it, if that's something you guys would be interested in. I've done a couple Sherlock Holmes novels. Not novels, I've done some short stories, and I'm working on the novel versions. I apologize to my Livestream regulars that I don't have my Starbucks today. It was a lot cheaper to go to my local soda shop. What are the flags behind you? Good question. I just put them up yesterday. The one on the left here is Saskatchewan. The one in the middle is Greenland, and the one on the right is Gibraltar. Eventually, if I can find all of them, I'm going to put more flags on the other side too, to kind of mirror it. But what kind of fish are you going to get? Good question. I want to do a full-out reef. I have never owned fish in my life, and so I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. but I'm fairly passionate about zoological design, and so it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's something I've studied, but I've never actually put it into practice. So a bunch of chromis types, definitely a plecostomus. I want a shrimp, but we'll see. John316 says, what country do you live in? I will let my Packers jersey speak for itself. Flickstreet Productions says, have you seen the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law? I have. I'm not the biggest Guy Ritchie fan, so I don't know that I like them nearly as much as the Sherlock TV show, but I'm also a Doctor Who fan, so that kind of steers me in favor of Stephen Moffat. Actually, I think the best Sherlock Holmes adaptation within the last 20 years is Elementary on CBS with Dominic West is who plays Sherlock in that series. Let's go to a question from Brooklyn, who asked, can you please do Court of the Dead? Yeah, so I mentioned that earlier. Court of the Dead is the second book in the Nico trilogy that's coming up in 12 days. So not on Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. And I will be basically recording a chapter as soon as it comes out. I'll release it for everybody. And then I'll do 2 chapters a day over on Patreon and 1 chapter a day over on YouTube. Coffee Bean is asking a question about the radiation effect. Why are the Garens so mean to Margot? I think the answer is hidden in book 1. It's implied that something happened in book 1 that will definitely in chapter 2 of the radiation effect. So book 2 of the radiation effect is called Homeland Security. Chapter 1 is already out. Chapter 2 I'm working on. In chapter 2, we get a little more insight into something with Margot. And chapter 3 is basically going to say it without saying it. So by chapter 3 of book 2 of the radiation effect, you should have a pretty good picture of why the Garens, or at least why Bill is so mean to Margot. Now, does he maybe take it overboard? Absolutely. I think there's... The whole point of what I'm trying to do with the radiation effect is everyone is a broken person, and everyone makes really bad decisions sometimes. That comes at the cost of not everybody is a likable protagonist, which may not do the book any favors. But I wanted to do kind of as realistic a portrayal of personal and family dynamics as I possibly could. And with that, one of the things that I have to do as an author is to make every single character make a lot of mistakes. And so Margot has made a mistake here. Bill has made a mistake in the way that he responds to that. Emma has made a mistake in the way that she responds to things, if that makes any sense. And it all kind of creates these weird dynamics, and I'm really looking forward to exploring it. Super Sentai Fan 26 says, are you excited for the Disney Plus Season 2 of Percy Jackson? I always use the term cautiously optimistic. The first season had what I thought was great, but I thought there were a lot of changes that I didn't like, and it made me worried about the future of the show. So I already don't like Sea of Monsters very much. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, it is the worst Percy Jackson book, and I am not looking forward to Season 2 necessarily for that reason, and I'm also not necessarily looking forward to it because I think the changes that they made in Season 1 will affect Season 2 for the negative. I would love to have my opinions changed. John316 says, what is your favorite Hunger Games book? My favorite Hunger Games book is by far Catching Fire. I usually like the penultimate book in a series. So the second to last book, Harry Potter, for me, it's book 6. Hunger Games, Kane Chronicles is book 2. Percy Jackson is book 4. The only exception that I've found so far is, a couple different exceptions. Storm of Swords is not the penultimate book in a Game of Thrones, or A Song of Ice and Fire, nor is Tower of Nero, I think, is the best book. It's the only series, that's the 5th book in Trials of Apollo. I think it's the only series that Rick has written where the last book is as conclusive and a perfect fit to an ending that he has written. I don't think Last Olympian is bad, but I don't think it's nearly up to par with Battle of the Labyrinth, and I really, really don't like Blood of Olympus. Are you excited for the new 21 Pilots album tonight? I am absolutely excited for the new 21 Pilots album tonight. Actually, I don't want to show you guys because I have a whole pile of stuff I haven't put away yet, and my office is still a mess off screen. But I have my 21 Pilots artwork on the wall there, and maybe I'll send a picture to the Discord later. But an artist I know from Michigan did a 6-part series on 21 Pilots for me. Not for me, it's part of her... it's the same... So the same person that did my album artwork, which is right behind me, also did a 21 Pilots series, and I bought a 4-set back during the Trench era, and then she has updated it every year that they've come out with a new album, and so I have 6 of them. So it's all 7 albums with the exception of she doesn't have one for regional at best. John 3:16 says, I'm currently reading The Son of Neptune, but I am curious, what is the best book in the Heroes of Olympus series? Same answer for me, penultimate book. So the 4th of the 5 is House of Hades. I think House of Hades, having now reread the series recently, I think House of Hades is by far the best book in Heroes of Olympus. I've always been partial to Mark of Athena. I love Mark of Athena for all of the different scenes. Mark of Athena has the best scenes, but I think overall, storytelling-wise, character arc-wise, House of Hades clears. Mark of Athena has the stables scene. Andrea says, what is your timeline for the rest of the Maze Runner series? It's a good question because there's a lot of books in the Maze Runner series. Book 2, like I said earlier, is currently airing over on Patreon. It'll be up on YouTube starting, I believe, in October, or the end of October. And then after that, we're going to finish the Divergent series. We have one more book left in that series. We have one more book in the original 4 Inheritance Cycle series. And then we will do the final book in the original trilogy of Maze Runner books. I believe the 3rd one is the Death Cure? Or is it the Fever Code? I don't know the order. Whatever book 3 is. And then there's the novella, Crank Palace, which I will also do very shortly after that. And then there's the 2 prequels. One is the Kill Order. The other one I have no idea because I obviously don't know the order of the books. But yes, I don't know when I'll get to the prequels, but the 3rd book should be coming in January, shortly there followed by the novella. Ghost Basil says, a bit more of a niche trilogy, but I'd love to hear you do the Chaos Walking trilogy by Patrick Ness. I don't know that I've ever heard of it. I'll have to check it out. Flick Street Productions says, what is your favorite portrayal of Moriarty? My answer's going to bug you. I love Jared Harris's portrayal in Sherlock Holmes' Game of Shadows. I love Jared Harris in everything. Chernobyl is fantastic. His portrayal in The Crown is fantastic. He's the son of Richard Harris for Harry Potter fans. Richard Harris was the original Dumbledore. His son Jared is a very, very prominent British actor. My favorite portrayal of Moriarty is Ralph Fiennes in Holmes and Watson, starring Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. I'm joking. My favorite portrayal of Moriarty is also probably Jared Harris. Carlito's Corner said, if you ever decide to add a reptile enclosure, I recommend a leopard gecko. I'm pushing it with my wife with getting fish. I really don't think she would let me have reptiles. If I preferred reptiles, I'd do a snake. My in-laws have a bearded dragon, and I don't know, something about lizards I'm not a big fan of, but if I ever were to get a reptile, I think I'd get a snake. John 3:16 asked, how many siblings do you have? I have 7. I do not have 7. I'm going to refrain from answering that simply because it's a little personal for me. Expogo Sam says, we better hear about Morgan in Chapter 2 if it's a Kent chapter. I cannot confirm nor deny whether we will hear from Morgan. Flickstreet Productions says, I also loved Stephen Fry as Mycroft in Game of Shadows. What is your favorite portrayal of Mycroft? Probably also Stephen Fry. I love Stephen Fry and everything. I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Gatiss, and so like the one people usually respond is Mark Gatiss, but I would probably also say Stephen Fry. Xpogo Sam says, had 2 leopard geckos when I was younger, and it was okay at best. I've never had fish. I've had a few cats in my life. I currently have 2 cats that aren't allowed in here because of the fish tank. And, yeah. And I had a dog when I was little, too. Let's go to a question from Benjamin Cranny Whitehead, who says, can you do the Darren Shan Vampire series or Cherub by Robert Muchamore? Those have been requested before, and I can't remember when or if I've ever looked them up. I don't know if they're on my list or not, but I can check them out. El Barto says, do you think you're going to continue with a series of unfortunate events? Yes. So I want to apologize. I had a whole, schedule of audiobooks to finish and when they were going to come out, and I was doing really well, and then we moved, and then things got really busy. And another thing happened in my life that I will tell you guys about very, very shortly that is very exciting and very positive, but is taking up a lot of energy and a lot of mental energy and a lot of time. And so my schedule has kind of gone off the rails. I had Keeper of the Lost Cities to be done a month ago tomorrow. It will not be done a month ago. It will not be done tomorrow. Keeper of the Lost Cities is my next project, followed by the end of Children of Dune, followed probably by a series of unfortunate events, book 4. I've already done the first 3. Yes, I'm planning on continuing. I just have no idea when I'm going to get around to finishing the books because my schedule's a little delayed at the moment. Let's see here. Kylito's Corner says, I will say this about Chapter 1 of Homeland Security. That's Book 2 in the Radiation Effect. I was so into the first chapter that when it was over, I thought it was buffering because it ended. 40 minutes went by fast, so I'm locked in. I will say this. I told myself I was going to take a break from writing for a month after I finished the Radiation Effect. I broke that rule to write Chapter 1 of Homeland Security because Homeland Security is a fast chapter. A lot happens in a lot of pages, but it blows by to the point where I'm kind of worried about Chapter 2 because you guys are going to be super excited and all of a sudden I'm going to pull it back and you're going to be like, well, that was really boring. But I think it has to happen for the character development. But yeah, basically we jump right back in. And I kind of wanted that on purpose. I'm not going to say I stole that from Aragon because there's a lot I don't want to steal from Aragon, but both Book 2 and Book 3 of the Inheritance Cycle series start the same way, where it's basically another chapter onto the previous book, and then it slows down a little bit. Kylito's Corner says, so you decided against clownfish then? I will probably have 1 clownfish. The one I'm not sure about is blue tangs, because blue tangs are a very rare fish, and the way that they're farmed is not always ethical. So I've heard. There's some controversy about getting blue tangs. But clownfish, I would love to have a clownfish. I've wanted a clownfish since I saw Finding Nemo in theaters when I was 3 years old. Let's go to a question from British Percy Pig, who says, what chapter is the Cupid thing in House of Hades? I actually don't know that. That is the chapter for Nico fans in House of Hades. Very, very impactful chapter. Has basically changed the way that Rick Riordan writes and who his target audience has become. Off the top of my head, I don't know it. You could probably look it up and it would tell you. Will Pompeo says, what happened to your Magnus Chase readings? My Magnus Chase readings are still available on YouTube. Nothing has happened to them. Brooklyn says, can you please do the Blood of Hercules? I am not super familiar with the Blood of Hercules. I know it's nowhere near related to the Percy Jackson books. I know it's about Hercules becoming human or a demigod, or I don't know the exact details of it. And I know it's a bit more aged up and romantic than Percy Jackson is. But beyond that, I know nothing about it. I've never read it. So I can take a look at it and see if it's worth adding to my list. Let's see here. Expogo Sam says, can you elaborate on the roller coaster logistics from Chapter 1? Sure. So, Chapter 1 of The Radiation Effect takes place at Disney's California Adventure, which is a real-life theme park, which is right across the street from Disneyland. It's the same complex, but Disneyland is here, and California Adventure is here. One of the main rides at California Adventure is now called the Incredicoaster. And I actually can't remember the original name of it, but basically it's this roller coaster that has a big loop-de-loop at one point, a couple covered tunnels. And what happens on this ride, spoilers, is if we back up in the chapter, Emma's new effect is often triggered in her sleep. It's mentioned that she, over the summer since developing the effect, has burned through several of her bed sheets because in her sleep she'll activate her effect and burn through them with her hands. And while they're sleeping in Chapter 1, she accidentally touches Johnny and burns him to the point that his own effect is triggered. And his effect is, he can basically use the Force, right? So if she uses her effect to burn him, he has this reactionary, like, fling out his arm, right? That's pretty detailed described in that nighttime scene. So what happens in the roller coaster scene is Emma sees this threat that she is very familiar with, and Margot would be too, but the only person with her is Johnny. She registers that something wrong is happening, and she has no way to solve it because she can't communicate to Johnny what is happening and what she sees. And so, fearing that something very bad is going to happen, and she ends up being right about this, she basically recreates what happened the night before, where she touches Johnny with her hand. Johnny's seated next to her. She touches Johnny, and Johnny, being burned, reactionarily throws his arm out. And what happens is, when he throws his arm out, the effect of that is he throws this man off the side of a roller coaster and kills him. So it happens twice in the chapter. The first time Johnny breaks a glass against the wall, and the second time he ends up killing a guy by throwing him off the side of a roller coaster, if that makes any sense. And Johnny is not happy about it, which is what we see in their interaction at the end of the chapter. John 3:16 says, I'm reading the first Keepers of the Lost Cities book and have had flashbacks. Flashback Legacy unlocked Stellar Loon. And have Flashback Legacy unlocked Stellar Loon and Unraveled. Anyways, great series so far. Are you going to read it? I guess I don't really understand the question. Keeper of the Lost Cities is one that I am reading. I think I just mentioned that. Kylito's Corner is asking, I'm not sure, but I think you might want to get at least 2, because they do better with at least one other. I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard. Oh, with Clownfish. Yes. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that, actually. I totally forgot about that, but yes, I did know that about Clownfish. You should have 2 of them. I love that we're talking aquarium logistics on a book live stream. Gage Flores says, can you please do more Aragon and Artemis Fowl when you have the chance? I have started book 3 of Artemis Fowl. So I personally have never read past book 2. I have no idea what happens going on in the series, except for the obvious spoiler that I won't say on the live stream. But if you know anything about the series and what happens about halfway through the series, like, it's no longer just called Artemis Fowl. But I have started the Eternity Code, I think is the name of book 3. I have started that. So hopefully that'll be up sometime this fall. It was originally scheduled for October, but now my schedule is delayed by about a month and a half. And then Inheritance Cycle will be up after. So I mentioned we're doing Scorch Trials now, then we'll do Allegiant, and then after Allegiant we'll do Inheritance, which is the final of the original 4 books. Feel free to keep asking questions in the live chat. This will probably end up being a shorter live stream today, which is totally fine. Christian Askren says, you should look into the Eye of Mine series by James Dashner. I've never heard of it. James Dashner, of course, is the author of the Maze Runner series. I've never read any of his other stuff. I'm not familiar with it at all, so I'll have to check it out. Expo Sam says, I did not pick that up. It was Johnny's effect that chucked the masked man off. That makes much more sense. I thought Johnny's hand physically smacked the guy's suspension rope off its tether. No. So what I was trying to imply, and maybe I do need to clarify it, I was trying to be creative as an author. But yeah, basically what happens is Johnny's effect grabs him and throws him off his tether and kills him. And Johnny is well aware of the fact that Emma did it on purpose. And he's not happy about being used physically to do something that she wanted done. Despite the fact that she was right about it, it ended up being her preventing an attack. My last pre-prepared question comes from Freedom Eiley, who says, can you do the Jurassic Park books? Maybe. So, interesting, and I'll explain, because we're going to get halfway through my answer, and you're going to be like, that's not what I'm talking about. I have kind of made a rule to myself on this channel that I will not be doing any novelizations of movies. So like the Star Wars books, I'm not going to do by Ryder Wyndham because they are novelizations of movies. If you wanted to listen or watch a movie version of that book, just go do that. Now, I understand that the Jurassic Park books came out before the movies, which is not something a lot of people know, and it's, in fact, when I started this channel, I didn't know that either. But Jurassic Park, the movie, is actually based on a series of books. I've never read them, I'm not familiar with them, but they've been requested a few times, so they are on my list. I have no idea when or if I will get to them. Kylito's Corner says, I didn't realize Chapter 2 of Eric was already out. I did listen to the first one, and I know people have made comments about it, but I love the PJO-inspired chapter titles. Thank you. That is exactly what I was going for. I mentioned the seriousness of Radiation Effect versus the audience that I'm going for with Eric Schwabington. One of the things that I wanted to do with Eric Schwabington is I wanted it to be a lot funnier and a lot more fun. So yeah, I think his just blasé attitude towards everything is a lot more fun than how serious the characters in the Radiation Effect are. Nothing will beat the one-liner in the Radiation Effect. I think it's chapter 27 when Kent drops the one-liner to Jordan. That's still my favorite line I've ever written. But yes, Chapter 2 of Eric came out this afternoon, actually. So once you get off the live stream, feel free to listen to it. And let me know either on Discord or just in the comments what you think of the chapter and theories going forward. Excuse me. Flick Street Productions says, the Eye of Mine series is basically about a futuristic computer hacker who bands with other hackers to stop a bad guy from taking over. It's basically a blend of Inception and The Matrix. Maybe I have heard of that before. It sounds very familiar, but I can't remember if it was a James Dashner book that I'm thinking of. Expogo Sam says, laughed audibly at Kent's line in that chapter. Good. That's what I'm going for. I make reactionary content. I love when you guys engage with it. Kylito's Corner says, Jurassic Park books would be awesome. The first book has a decent audiobook on YouTube, but the second one only has an AI-generated garbage narration. I'm not a fan of AI audiobooks, if that wasn't obvious, but yeah, I've never read them. Steven Spielberg has, obviously. Expogo Sam says, a lot of Jordan's quips were great too. Jordan and Liz were probably the funniest characters in the first book. Whoops. I think Margot has a lot of good one-liners. Or the thing about Margot is Margot's got a lot of attitude. And so I think I would love to continue that. The problem is Margot's character at the moment, and it's not just a momentary thing, with what she went through, that is not something she'll get over. There is, for lack of a better term, I mean this as respectfully as possible, there is a stain on her character now that will always be there going forward. And as much as I want to still have her be the sassy, quippy, like, we have to keep in mind that what she went through will change her permanently going forward. And so I'm trying to find that balance of her spikiness with how depressed she's going to be in this book. Spoilers, but after what she went through, like, that has to be expected. The other thing I wanted to say is we also have a new POV character coming into this series. We don't meet them as a POV character in Chapter 2, but we meet them as a main character in Book 2. We've already met them. But that character will have a lot of quips and a lot of attitude. And it's writing it right now, it's a lot of fun. The interactions that character has with the narrator in Chapter 2. It's a lot of fun. Xpogo Sam says, Margot has attitude with her humor. She's proving her point with a bit of sass. Jordan and Liz were more generally funny. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a lot different because I don't want... So for example, the character I'm referring to, I'll spoil it. The character I'm referring to is Siobhan. Siobhan is going to be one of the POV characters going forward. And Kent is actually going to point this out at some point, how his British friend, who is killed in the first book, is replaced by another British girl. I use British very loosely. I am well aware of the politics between the United Kingdom and Ireland. But a girl from England that he was very, very close with is replaced by a girl from Ireland who he also has the chance to be very, very close with. And I do not want them to feel too similar, if that makes any sense. And I think there's going to be a lot of differences between them. Xpogo Sam says, I'm positive we'll also hear from Riley. Not sure about Siobhan chapters. Not really sure how in-depth we'll go. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will probably be consistent with having 6 POVs in every book. So yes, you'd be right about that. It's actually... I have said in Book 3, I do not want this to be the case going forward. Book 3 will not start nearly the same as it does with the first 2 books. But the first 2 books basically have the same first 2 chapters. That's not true. The first chapter in Book 2 is a lot faster and a lot heavier than Book 1. But both Chapter 2s are going to be very similar. And both sets have the same narrators. And so you'll see what I mean. Chapter 2 of Homeland Security is going to be very similar to Chapter 2 in the Radiation Effect. Kylito's Corner says, as a reader, I do hope something happens in this book that starts to pull Margot out of her depressed state, and she changes somewhat with a hint of the old Margot still there. I absolutely think we'll see that. Like I said, I don't want to spoil anything too much. I do have Margot's arc pretty significantly planned out, but hope I didn't lose you guys there. Looked like my stream cut off for a second. I was saying, we'll definitely see Margot fight through what she's going through and try to return in a lot of ways. I don't know if we'll get there by the end of this book, but it's definitely an arc that will happen going forward. Just learned how to spell Siobhan. Thank you. Xpogo Sam says, I was wrong in real time. Interesting that we might not hear a Riley POV. Also, that would kind of ruin the mystery of Riley's backstory. I don't want to spoil anything, but to say that we won't get a Riley POV, I think would be shocking. I don't think I'll ever outright say his backstory. Just flat out. Like, I've never said anything about Margot's backstory, not even just with the Garens. I've never actually said what happened to Margot. But yeah, I think they're all things that other characters will have thoughts about that will kind of shape what we actually see with them, if that makes any sense. Xpogo Sam says, in Book 1, I really like that the first time we see/hear about effects is Liz using hers. I remember the first time listening when I got to that part, and it was very much, oh, that's what is happening. Yeah. And I've been curious how to do that with Siobhan in book 2. I haven't necessarily decided how I want Siobhan's effect to be revealed. It may just generally be she says it out loud. But we may see like a showcase during training. We'll see. Feel free to keep asking questions in the chat. I am always willing to stay as long as you guys want, but it seems like the chat is slowing down a little bit. Yeah, I do spell Riley really, really dumb. I do that on purpose. Xbogo Sam says, we haven't heard her effect or seen it yet, I assume. As of Chapter 1 in the Radiation Effect, we've never seen Siobhan's effect. Now, keep in mind, we've only seen Siobhan in 2 chapters. Question for you guys who are in the chat. How loud is my fish tank behind me? Like, for example, I have a bubbler, like an oxidizer, and a filter going behind me with a waterfall. And I want to know if I'm reading an audiobook just like this, is that too distracting for you guys? Kylito's Corner says, so Riley is the Yoda of the Radiation Effect lore, and that his backstory will forever remain a mystery. I don't think his backstory will remain a mystery, but his species certainly will. So yes, he's just like Yoda. Please don't run with that. That is not me plugging anything. That's a joke. What did you think of the NFL's Week 1? I have never been more impressed. I say this as if it's a scripted show. I have never been more impressed with an opening week of football in my life. The first night was a great game. The second night was a great game. I thought the Packers game was a lot of fun. I thought all of the different slates in Sunday there were a lot of really, really interesting games and dynamics that played out the way they did. And all 4 night games last week were phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. Xbogo Sam says you will 100% hear it. I think I'm less concerned about hearing it and more concerned if it's too distracting. Because some people have actually asked me if I can put like rain effects in. Is it obnoxiously loud is I think what I'm getting at. Like is it bothersomely distracting? Okay, that's good. Do you follow Canadian football at all? Yes, I'm a BC Lions fan. I'm well aware of the scrutiny that will bring. Have you ever been to a game? Yes. They were on a 5 or 6 game win streak last year, and I went to see them play up in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg had lost 9 straight, and the Lions didn't score a single point. It was a good night. Are you going to the World Cup next year? Yes, hopefully. The closest game to me is Kansas City. I put in for tickets. I have a cousin that lives down in Kansas City, and I would love to go visit her for the weekend. Tickets are going to be really expensive. I am hoping that I can either go to Kansas City or fly somewhere else and go watch Norway perform. Go watch Norway play, as long as I can do it for less than $500 per game ticket. Which scarves do you have behind you? I have 3 scarves on the wall right now, and I have a couple in the corner that I haven't figured out a place to put up yet. I have Wickham Wanderers in a very far corner. That's my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite football club, that would be probably my favorite. And then Pacific FC, which is a team in Victoria, Canada, British Columbia. And then Minnesota United FC right next to it. It's probably at 60% of your relative voice volume. I'm going to say it one more time, not out of disrespect, but just curiosity. Is it bothersome? I'm not worried about it sounding. I'm not worried about it showing up in the audiobooks. I'm more worried about people being distracted by it and it ruining the quality of my audiobooks. Cuddlydo's Corner says, I know that I listed off quite a few of the teams I like in the NFL, but I'm not I'm not a diehard football fan, aside from Sooners college football to an extent, as I am racing, so I'm unapologetically a fair weather fan. I know a lot of people like that. I was talking to a bunch of guys last week. We were having a discussion at a men's group that I was a part of, and people were just asking, the general question to start the event was, do you follow football? And the vast majority actually said no. The local team around me is the Vikings, of course, and so the guys that said yes, they do, are all Vikings fans, but those that didn't just say, I just follow it for whoever's good. A lot of Chiefs fans right now. Okay, then I'll probably have to turn it off or just move to a different half of my office. I can change the color of the fish tank too. It's really exciting. I put it together last night. I was hyped. You have no idea how long I wanted a fish tank in my life. I finally convinced my wife to let me have one simply because she doesn't come into my office. My son's really excited about fish, though. Like, super excited. He was mad that I put it up and there weren't fish in it, because he's been super excited about fish. I think with that, the chat is kind of coming to a close, so I think we're just going to naturally end it there. I wanted to mention, just briefly, what's coming up on the channel. If I go to my... I got to find it here. If I go to my YouTube spreadsheet... coming up on the channel very, very soon... I mentioned Keeper of the Lost Cities. I mentioned Children of Dune. The other ones that I'm hoping to finish soon are Scent, which is book 2 of the Missing series. That's like, the first book is called Found. It's by Margaret Peterson Haddix, the same author of like the Shadow Children books. A couple of the Percy Jackson side books, like Greek Gods and Greek Heroes. People of Sparks, which is the second book of the City of Ember. I mentioned book 4 of A Series of Unfortunate Events, and then I also mentioned book 3 of Artemis Fowl. So those are the books that I'm going to try to prioritize as soon as I possibly can. Get those out to you guys as efficiently and as soon as possible. Thank you guys for being patient with me with everything going on in my world. And like I said, if you guys ever need to chat about what's going on in your worlds, you're always more than welcome to do so. I've been kind of on a DM break. I haven't really been checking my DMs very accurately. I'm hoping to start that up again soon. I just kind of needed a mental break given everything going on. And you're always welcome to email me as well, echowyrm@gmail.com. That's worm spelled with an I. So, go back, see if I missed anything in the main chat real quick. Kylito's Corner says, if I'm distracted by the tank, it'll be because I'm looking at all the pretty fish in the tank during the streams. Fair. All right. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. We'll see you over on Discord. Discord, there should be a link in the channel description if you want to join. So, otherwise, we'll see you soon.